Hey everybody! Thanks again for all the support. Appreciate y'all. Thanks for all the comments I got on the last video. So that's gonna help me make subsequent videos to try and address some of the things that you guys want to see. So, of all the comments I got, one of the most common is like, where do I start? Tell me about how you started. Where did you get your info? How do you go through these tutorials to get, and then translate those into physical? So the goal of this video is to give you a starting point as you go through your martial arts journey, to try and squeeze all the juice you possibly can from the thousands of hours of content that's on YouTube that you can learn for free, before going to a gym, and refining those skills. Um, so in this video, I'm going to go over two major aspects of where to start: physical and mental. The physical portion, to talk a little bit about flexibility. Also going to talk about endurance, like muscle endurance, that is, and a little bit of cardio. On the mental end, it pretty much just boils down to two major things: um, removing your ego and like, coming in open-minded to learn. That's one. And the other one is just having a one more mentality. Like, I can do one more. I can go one more round. I can go do one more rep, sort of thing. So that's kind of what I'm gonna be trying to convey in this video. So I'm going to show you some of the exercises that I do, to get some flexibility, especially when I'm throwing kicks. You're going to need some flexibility in your hamstrings, in your hips, especially around the groin area. So you're going to need flexible hips, flexible hamstrings. Yeah, I mean, you're going to need flexibility in other places like your lower back as well. But that's more that flexibility comes more from strength. One of the things that helped me a lot to gain that kind of flexibility was yoga. Believe it or not, it's actually really helpful. Also helps me to be able to balance on one foot. So when I throw a kick, I stay balanced to retract that kick, recock that kick. Um, so yeah, let's just dive right on in. All right, so the first piece we're talking about is flexibility. When I'm working kicks at the bag, I always start with these exercises, trying to open up my hip up. Because the thing is, like, when you're throwing these kicks, you need both your power, so the strength that you've generated by working out your legs, your calves, all that good stuff. But you also need the flexibility to be able to perform that kick in a proper form, right? To be able to execute it the way it's supposed to. Especially if you're throwing head kicks, the higher you go, the more flexibility and strength you're going to need in your hips. So this first exercise, the soccer players are going to be familiar with it. It's a pretty basic one. Just kick straight up and then all the way out. So when you're first starting these exercises, you want to make sure that you're slowing down and trying to get the full range of motion, because not only is that going to allow you to get the most out of the exercise, it's also going to help you gauge where your limit is in that muscle. So when you start feeling that tightness where it starts to hurt, not like the good hurt, but it starts to hurt where it's more acute and it's a sharper pain, you know that you're pushing yourself too far and you need to dial it back in a little bit. Um, but that's a good one to start. It helps again, to have a slow, controlled motion. In this clip here, I'm going a bit quicker, but I've been doing this exercise since I was a kid playing soccer. So I'm pretty familiar with it. But if you're not too familiar with this and you're just trying to start from scratch, it helps to take it nice and slow and get the most out of that exercise. Now, this next one here is like Frankenstein. You've probably seen it in gym class. I don't put the hands out just because I don't care much for it. I don't think it's necessary. But either way, like, I'm making sure I just kind of keep my hands right there and I just tap my knee to make sure that I'm getting the right height. Um, and if you look closely, you'll see that right at the peak of the kick, I'm kind of tucking my core a little bit. Um, so the reason for that is it helps me keep my balance. It helps me stay strong in my stance. I make sure that I'm keeping the right frame. Even when you're throwing your kicks, you're gonna want to kind of crunch in to make sure you're keeping your same frame so you can block, defend, move around, and keep your balance at, like, during, after, before, during, and after the kick. So keeping a strong core is really important. So when I do this exercise, I try to use that to practice being in that place on one foot, core tight, while extending one of my legs. Excuse me. So again, I'm going kind of quick here, but I've been doing this exercise for some time. To get the most out of it, you want to make sure you're doing a slow, controlled movement. So the next piece that I'm gonna do here is the opposite of the first exercise that we did. When we started, we are going up and out. Now we're gonna go out and in. So from here, out, some are going out, in. Right. So, and again, notice how slowly I'm doing this one. This one is not as strong as my other um, exercises because my outside hip flexors aren't as strong as my inner. For me personally, my body, just the way that I've worked out in the past. So I take the time to go out and in, and again, what you're looking for is that breaking point. You want to feel the parts of your body that have the most tightness, and then you can do subsequent research to figure out how you can target those specific areas. Um, and a coach is really helpful for that. I always recommend getting a coach. Um, I've had coaches here and there. I just haven't had, a gym that I've gone to train consistently over time. Their coach could be on YouTube, Instagram, whatever that outlet is. But personally, I don't think there's a substitute for that one-on-one live coaching. These are all just workarounds to try and get to the same result without having to pay the buku money of having like a personal trainer or anything like that. Um, this next one, I first saw it in this channel called Elastic Steel. I'm not sure if it's still a live channel, but what this one focuses on is building strength in your hips as well as focusing on your balance on your plant foot. So the way you start this one is you want a chair or some kind of platform that you can put your hand on to help you balance. Your plant foot, your toes should be pointing away from, should be pointing towards the surface that you're leaning against. Your heel pointing away from it. And when you start off, you're gonna want to have the hand firmly on there. But as you move forward and as you progress, you want to start playing with letting the hand off lightly until you get to the point where you don't need the platform at all. Again, when you first start these exercises, it's really important to do a slow, controlled movement. So here I just demonstrate two of the motions, but you could probably guess what the third one is. So I'm going up and down, up and down, up and down, and then I'm going to go around, outward. So then the last one, you probably guessed it, is going around inward. And what you do to one side, you want to do the other, trying to keep your muscle balance on both sides of your body. And I lost my balance there. So you can probably tell which side is my dominant side as opposed to which is my weaker side. But either way, these types of exercises are going to help you build the strength in your hips that's going to allow you to be able to execute your kicks with proper form and to be able to put a little bit of oomph behind it. Now, when it comes to muscle endurance, one of the things I learned from wrestling, again, I had a fantastic coach. I'm not going to put his name out there because just to respect his privacy, but his number one thing was repetition, repetition, repetition. A lot of folks would see these and akin them to CrossFit, um, but I mean they're CrossFit-like exercises, but it's not CrossFit, right? It's not CrossFit, right? Whether or not you like CrossFit, think it's dumb, whatever. That's besides the point. The point of this exercise is that you're using lower weight than you could potentially do in the same exercise, but you just do a lot more repetitions of it. I'll show some of the exercises on my Instagram, so be sure to follow me over there. Shameless plug. But so like one of my favorite exercises outside of squat, that's number one, is this exercise called bear complexes. So it's you do a deadlift, a clean, front squat, push press, back squat, push press. That's one. So when I was at my peak, I could do 3 sets of 10. Now these days it's more like 3 sets of 6, 3 sets of 7. On a really good day, 3 sets of 8. But things like that, where you're constantly having to do a difficult exercise that engages your core, your legs, your back, your shoulders, like those types of exercises are going to help you build that muscle endurance. Being able to do the work for a long amount of time, not just being able to, like, oh, I can bench 500 pounds, that's great if you're a football lineman, but for most context, it's more important to be able to do it continually with strength. So like when I talk about strength, like this is just my personal philosophy. I try to differentiate strength from power, not in like the physics sense and like in the like biomechanics and all that stuff. I'm not going there. I don't understand that well enough. But for me, strength is like when you think of like that old man strength. If you remember when you were a kid and your dad grabbed you, like, oh, so it's like that old man strength. That's kind of what I associate with the word strength. Power, I think of like a football player, like a really big, freaking powerful, like a Viking. It's like one hitter quitter type of power. That's more of a burst of energy, to try and execute at one time with a lot of force, right? As opposed to having a controlled movement. Like if you see some of the like freestyle, like parkour folks, some like they can do a pull up, sit there, move, like that is strength, because I like there's a control factor there. Like that's kind of what I strive to develop is doing slow controlled movements with high reps, and not necessarily trying to put on as much weight as I possibly can, but making sure that I can do the weight consistently, for an extended period of time. So that's kind of how I try and approach my strength training. But like to eat, like everybody's body's a little bit different, so you got to find what works for you. For me, it's been like body exercises, low weight stuff. I still do some high weight stuff, especially when it comes to squat, just because and I'm trying to keep them strong legs. But yeah, I try to make sure that I'm focusing on the muscles and the muscle groups, and the exercises that are gonna pay the most dividend in the motions that I'm gonna be doing. If I'm throwing a kick, I focus. I know that I'm gonna be using my core. I'm gonna be using my leg. I'm gonna be using my calves. I'm gonna be using these fast twitch muscles. But also when I'm grappling, I'm gonna need some of the slower twitch muscles to be able to hold, maneuver, turn, that sort of thing. So you want to keep that in mind, when you're doing your training, meaning like what exercises am I doing and how are those exercises going to translate into the motions that I want to execute, right? So if I'm throwing punches, what muscles am I engaging? Do I need a strong back? Do I need a strong shoulder? Do I need a strong core? Right, because that's where it's coming from, right? So, and I try to target those muscles, as I do my strength training. All right, guys. So I'm gonna cut it short here. So I'm gonna throw up a second video with the mental portion. I'm also gonna talk a little bit about cardio, in that video. But this is getting a little too long. I don't want this video to be too long. I'm still trying to figure out this whole YouTube thing. So guys, just be patient with me as I get all my ducks in a row, as they say. But yeah, if you like the video, if you got something useful out of it, please make sure you like and subscribe. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram. It's your boy Black and Chin 100. It'll be in the description, so don't worry about that. Yeah, thanks guys. Have a good one.